I have like some notes on my leaving speech for Instagram. It says, I joined 3 years ago as the first international employee based out of London. I couldn't imagine leaving our community in better hands. I've met so many amazing people and had the chance to change lives. Learning to laugh at yourself, humility, and always thank the little people. Kind of crazy that you have all these things in here, you know? And like, a trip down memory lane. My name is Hannah Ray. I worked at Instagram as a community manager for Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
I'm Greg Hockmuth. I was one of the first engineers at Instagram.
My name is Andy Warr. I was the head of research there.
My name is Chris Messina, and I am best known for inventing the hashtag. It's a little hard to see, but I've got a little hashtag tattoo right here on my wrist. So, yeah.
Instagram was this place where you posted your best self, the digital representation of you that you wanted to portray to your friends.
Now, follower accounts have like a certain social currency maybe we weren't quite aware of, that we were kind of king-making in that way.
I think comes a point when you just aren't in control of it anymore. And then it like took on a life of its own.
Facebook's Instagram app
can be toxic for teenagers.
And Facebook knows it.
She's the former Facebook employee turned whistleblower whose revelations are reverberating around the world.
The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer. They have put their astronomical profits before people.
My name is Frances Haugen. We're facing one of the fundamental conflicts of our civilization, which is, are we going to let algorithms rule us, or will people rule algorithms?
How do we increase engagement? How do we increase time spent? I didn't feel like that was the best use of people's time.
We don't fully understand what the consequences of this period will be.
This is just the beginning. And the thing that I think young people see, that maybe people a little bit older than them don't, is how intense the problems are. Because teenagers are killing themselves because of Instagram.
This challenge of like making Instagram feel less pressurized, I think is very difficult, if not impossible.
Could we predict? I don't even know. I don't know how to answer that question really. I'm going to go with no.
My name is Lauren Black and I'm an influencer. I have 123,000 followers. One of my ex-boyfriend's sisters actually bought me a book for Christmas about blogging, and that was when I started my Instagram. I was posting about fashion every day, like what I was wearing, like outfit of the day posts. I went full-time about 6 months after starting. I took a massive risk by like leaving uni and not having any savings, and I just threw everything that I had into it.
She loves beautiful ladies.
Oh, thank you. I started posting IGTV videos, and that took me from about 30,000 followers to over 100,000 followers. It was quite a jump. It was something that I wasn't really mentally prepared for. I was quite anxious because every day I had to then please thousands more people than usual. I was on Instagram all the time. Like my screen time was like 13 hours a day. It was like from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to sleep. I'd literally just be scrolling and like liking other people's pictures and like, yeah. Just scrolling.
I'm Manish Raghavan. I worked for the Responsible AI team. We serve to try to help other teams within Facebook better understand how to build and deploy AI responsibly. If you want to understand why Instagram is the way it is, you have to understand how the algorithms have shaped it to be that way. They are the result of people's choices.
The goal of any social media company is to make sure that you spend as much time on that platform as possible, and engage as much with content on that platform as possible. Different algorithms underpin platforms like Instagram. It's a way of ordering things, it's a way of saying yes or no to something. What people often think about how social media feed systems work is that they're one algorithm, and that somebody sits down and writes that algorithm and says, if you have two photos, one of them's a person and one of them's a cat, people are more important than cats, so we're going to rank the person above the cats. But there is no one algorithm that is written down that determines the order in which you see things on your Instagram feed, on your Facebook news feed, or on your Google search. The crucial thing about those algorithms is that they use hundreds of machine learning models. The way that the hundreds of machine learning models interact with each other is determined by the overarching metric that guides the feed ranking system. In Instagram, that overriding metric that orients the machine learning models is meaningful social interactions. The meaningful bit can not just be about the people that are close to you, like friends and family. It can be about stuff that you're interested in. Instagram figures out who is meaningful to you and who tends to engage often with the content that you produce. They predict whether you're likely to like a post, whether you're likely to share a post, or whether you're likely to comment underneath a post. And so interactions from the people closer to you tend to be prioritized above interactions from people who are further out in that network from you.
What Instagram is looking to do is keep you engaged in some way. This is slightly different from asking, what do you actually want to see?
The algorithms are the most opaque part of this whole system. You can see the user behavior. You can see sort of like the consequences of what happens as a result of being exposed to certain content, especially over and over again. But we don't necessarily understand, and some of the companies don't even understand, how content is targeted to different individuals, what choices they made to go down certain paths. And that lack of awareness is where we're the most vulnerable.
I've always had problems with food since I was a teenager. I used to collect Vogue and all fashion magazines anyway, so I already was aspiring to be model-like. When I started this job, I didn't realize like the impact of looking and comparing myself to other people had on my mental health, and my eating disorder got worse over the years.
I think the thing that's really important for people to understand is how Instagram differs from other social media platforms. TikTok is about performance. It's about doing fun things with your friends. Snapchat is about faces and augmented reality. It's not actually you, it's you with a mask on. Facebook's internal research says that Instagram is about bodies and about social comparison. It's about seeing these little windows in other people's lives and comparing, like, what is your life like to theirs.
The human brain is not evolved to deal with social media. It isn't evolved to look at a screen all day and be able to understand, let's say, that the thing that you're seeing on the other side of the screen isn't someone's real life.
Everyone that I followed on Instagram then would have been probably like from sizes 4 to 6. And that was kind of what I was trying to achieve.
The algorithms are looking for the content that will lure you in. These algorithms are always looking for the rabbit hole that you are most vulnerable to, because you can start with quite innocuous interests. You can search for healthy eating. These rabbit holes normalize the idea that you should be extremely thin, and it's your fault if you're not.
So I used to see myself as bigger than what I was. Yeah, that was kind of unconsciously, it started getting bad. I basically just ignored when I was hungry. And when I did eat, it would just be the tiniest amount. I woke up and I was so busy with work that I just put it off for as long as possible. And I feel like that's kind of like the sense of self-harm of having an eating disorder. It's just basically starving yourself. When I look back on pictures now, you can clearly see that I was ill. But when I was in the middle of it all, I just didn't really know. I think I thought if I changed myself, then I would gain more followers and get all these new opportunities. I just created this like vision in my mind that if I went and did this, then this would be the outcome. And it was a lie.
There were things that we were aware of that we would feed back. The hashtag thinspo has just popped up and it should probably be banned. So those things would come up and then we'd kind of jump on them and quickly figure out like the best policy to do that. But you have to remember that's alongside like loads of other kind of firefighting issues that were popping up. I mean, daily there were like new things coming up that I think are just part of like just how huge the platform was growing so quickly. At the time I joined, Instagram had celebrated its 3rd birthday. So I remember that month I was in California training and the whole sky was pink. And it just felt like being in an Instagram filter. You know, and then the cab was going down places like Valencia and Dogpatch, and those were names of filters, you know, on Instagram. So I really felt like I somehow descended into, you know, the world of Instagram.
At the time, we honestly didn't really have a clue how big it was, how much it was growing. I would go to many concerts. As people were taking photos of their time at the show, I would look over and I would see on their phone, oh, like that's Instagram, like that's the filter screen.
So I was friends with the creators of Instagram. I ended up being invited to a beta of this product. We were certainly plenty naive. And I think we had ideas about the world and about how technology could improve the world.
And the priorities were basically like, make a very simple app whose main goal is to help you share a photo, make it look beautiful. Did create this very like nice feedback loop. People really enjoyed, oh, I post a photo, I get these likes.
My name is Cole Rise, and I designed the original icon and 7 of the filters. Instagram's brand was about covering how bad the cameras were in the phones of the day. They were very pixely. So how do you make a great photo, put a nice heavy filter on it that makes it something else? It's not supposed to be true to life.
There was probably like a certain je ne sais quoi about Instagram that we would call like the Instagrammy-ness. The vibe that we had tried to cultivate and create on the community team. I found these postcards. These are like the brand values that we had at the time, like simplicity matters and inspire creativity. And my favorite, community first. I still say that a lot today, actually.
I think so many of the essence of how we built the product were around like what's going to be good for a person, like what's the next most important thing that we can work on that's going to make someone's life better. The biggest team actually, at least in my mind, was the community team, who were all focused on looking at what's happening on Instagram, engaging with active users, starting conversations, highlighting interesting users, picking who's featured and things like that.
We had a number of different ways that we would feature people. The main Instagram account, which was just at Instagram. It was like the most followed account in the world. I think it still has a bigger circulation than the New York Times. Like it was a hugely kind of impactful real estate to share someone's story. And whenever we would share someone's story on there, quite often you would see their kind of follow account and everything blow up for them. It felt kind of worrying, you know, to kind of be making those editorial decisions, partly because of like the huge influence and impact it could have on someone's life. I think we knew we were on like the cusp of something big that was happening and powerful and impactful. I don't think we were aware on the community team of how big it was going to get.
This world that Instagram had created, where you could present your life as more beautiful and interesting than it actually was, where you could see into all of these really interesting lives and careers and places in the world from your phone, that was so exciting that it grew so quickly and caught the attention of Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg wanted to make sure that he got to Instagram before any of his competitors did, and that he made sure that they joined Facebook. So he offered them $1 billion, which is more than anyone had ever paid for a mobile app before.
Kevin opens the conversation and says, you know, we've been talking to Facebook over the last few days, and they made an offer to acquire us. At this moment, I think what goes through my head and what goes through everyone else's head, I believe, is the next sentence will be, and we rejected them. And then the very next thing Kevin says is, and we accepted and we signed. I remember walking back from that little circle to our desks again next to one of my coworkers, and he just whispers to me, this is not how I thought it was going to end. And I think that's what everyone felt. This idea that like this ride that we were on, this roller coaster of being in control of our own destiny, growing this small little thing that we've been working on our own was like suddenly over.
Instagram essentially had to decide, do we want to go up against Facebook, which is this behemoth, or is this our time to, one, get a pretty significant payout and be able to build upon Facebook's existing infrastructure platform and then cater to all of Facebook's users? But at the time, it was shocking. It definitely gave me pause and a moment to be like, I don't know if this is ultimately going to be the best thing for this community.
Facebook has tried over and over and over to make a product that will appeal to young people. They had these labs that were churning out new kinds of apps to possibly create a new hit. Nothing really worked. Their main avenue into the youth audience is Instagram and whatever Instagram can create. And in order for Facebook to stay relevant, Instagram needs to maintain that cachet with youth.
There was this really burning question from folks on the Facebook side to understand our own growth in a way that we had never really been as eager about or as specific about. You know, previously success for us meant that we built a good product, that like the things we worked on were doing really well, that like people using them felt good about them. Shifting from that mindset to something where success is just measured by numbers in a very plain way. Over time, that became much more and more part of the way things were done, things were evaluated, things were designed.
I definitely noticed a change when we launched ads and when we started to onboard brands onto the platform. Now looking back, what I've seen or what I've realized is with the launch of ads and brands on the platform, this kind of tension or friction was created between brands that were almost trying to act like individuals and individuals that then start to act like brands.
When I first started doing Instagram, there was no such thing as influencing. I come from a modeling background. A few years later than that, Instagram came about, and obviously you like to take pictures, it's a picture app. So from my modeling history, I was like, okay, great, this is for me. I was very consistent with Instagram and I enjoyed it. Like you get free meals, you get to go to restaurants. I've even got holidays for promo, as they call it.
There's so many Instagram stylists. I feel like unless girls see you working with a massive influencer, they don't want to work with you, or they don't want to book your services. They just want to go to Who's Popping because they've gone there.
I got some friends that they will go to all these Instagram people, and then when the people mess up their hair, they'll come back to me. I'm like, I'm not doing your hair. You better just, you know your friend does hair. Why didn't you go and meet your friend before? Why are you coming to me?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say Instagram world is fake. Instagram's kind of like a facade. It's kind of like made the high life look so easy accessible. At 21, I'm getting on a private jet. It's not like that at all.
I remember when people started getting paid to post, and that idea quickly makes what you post a bit artificial. Where some people are doing like full-on BMW ads, and it's not genuine to who they are as a person, because I know that person. They don't drive a BMW. The core of Instagram, as I remember it, was just, here's what's happening. But if what's happening is an ad, then there's an artificiality to it.
Look at bloody COVID-19.
Yeah,
they
that
was
came
paying
randomly.
influencers
Yeah, to say that they did.
they was paying influencers to promote the vaccine. What? Instagram followers are very important, especially if you want to be paid as an influencer. My long-term goal for how many followers I want is probably 1 billion. I want 1 billion followers.
Now follower counts have like a certain social currency, as if it's some kind of golden ticket to unlocking the universe.
The more followers we get, the more comments we get, the better. And we have also become growth obsessed. And it's thanks to Facebook and Instagram and the way that they have let us measure ourselves that we think that way.
I decided to get fake followers. I can't remember what the package was. It wasn't even that much. I think I paid maybe £100. And it basically was I got 3,000 likes on each picture. And then I think I gained 10,000 followers because it did take me from 10,000 to 20,000. But then after that, it was why are all my followers Russian? And why are all these comments in Russian? What's going on? We need to get cracking. We've got literally 10 minutes. Let's go.
It's not very hard to get fake followers, fake likes, and etc. on Instagram. You just need an internet connection and a credit card. I'm Sophie Zhang, or Zhang Xuefei in Mandarin. I was a data scientist at Facebook on what's called the fake engagement team. I also conducted work on Instagram. Back in late 2019 and early 2020, roughly 10% of follows on Instagram were fake. This is a very rough estimate, but considerably higher than Facebook. It creates an environment of constant doubt and insecurity and uncertainty.
I had to go and block all these fake Russian accounts. Every time they commented, I had to block them. Lucky I did that because after I did that, Instagram had this thing where they started shutting down accounts that had fake followers. So you'd see celebrities, for instance, one of my friends, their Instagram account was just gone the next day. I was like, what? I was like, bro, where's your account? Let's just do one more. And he was like, oh, I got hacked. And everyone knew. Now Instagram's going around, shutting around fake accounts. So that was quite embarrassing. But luckily for me, I'd gotten rid of my bots by then. Quite funny.
Go and get changed. Go.
Thank you.
I was pretty naive because I had no clue what working for Facebook would be like. There's often a conflict between the product side of companies whose goal is to grow the company and the integrity side of companies whose goal is to protect the company from harm. Instagram was more aggressively focused on growing than Facebook. Because Instagram has more room to grow. This created a dynamic in which there was more resistance to integrity measures on Instagram than I personally saw on Facebook.
Facebook is a public company, Instagram is part of it, and Instagram needs to be the growth engine for Facebook to bring in as many young people as they can. And it's becoming more and more important, a bigger slice of that advertising every year.
When Instagram introduced advertising, it was obviously better for people to spend more time in the app because more time in the app means you see more ads. And the single best way to get you to spend more time in the app is to make your feed more interesting.
One of the kind of trademarks of Instagram when I first joined was that your feed would be in chronological order. But as the platform became more saturated, what we were finding is that more and more people weren't able to actually see a lot of the content that they followed. It became apparent that it would make more sense and actually help users more to order their feed. So that was rolled out.
There was a team of machine learning engineers who would evaluate the algorithm, and they would compare these through A/B tests to see which was performing better. There was, amongst some users, a negative perception of this. However, you look to the metrics, like our engagement metrics, like those were increasing.
Now, you can kind of turn it on any time and get something different, which I think for your brain is just this candy that it can't help but go back for. It looks like a logical decision now, looking back as to why Instagram did it as a business, or why it at the time maybe looked good for users. But it just completely changed, obviously, how it's being used and what people get out of it. And I think that's impossible to reverse.
There's a vast array of content that you may never have discovered otherwise unless the algorithm recognizes something about your behavior. But at the same time, depending on the nature of your interests, the things that you might get shown may or may not lead you down certain paths. And that can lead to some, I think, both like scary places and also ones that are not super, I guess, healthy.
I'm Abby and I'm 17 years old. I live with my mum and my sister and all my dogs. A good 4 years I've been associated with these anti-recovery Instagram communities. I probably wouldn't have known what self-harm was if I didn't look on them accounts. I knew how long I had to stay underwater to drown myself. I knew how many paracetamol I'd have to take to kill myself. I knew how many minutes you'd have to have something around your neck to ligature. You get added into groups and people would tell us to go and kill myself and they'd want to do it together and they would want to come on a video call, self-harm together, which is just corrupt. The bullying started like year 7, year 8, but I was bullied all the way to school for 5 years. So when I was 14, my school advised that I'd study at home due to my mental health deteriorating. I had so much free time, like I was missing out 6 hours a day on education. So sitting in front of your phone for hours and hours a day, I would make friends on Instagram. There'd be these like accounts, a sad quote, and they'd put it in with like sad toned music and they have like writing on it about like how you're feeling, so then you can relate to some of that and you like it, and then if you like them then people often follow you if you like them, and then you follow them and then you get sucked into that community.
The kinds of problematic content I remember being surprised by were actually around things like self-harm. Enough for you to be like, oh, actually people are using Instagram in ways that like aren't, you know, the sort of like nice vision that we have for what it could be and should be. I mean, just from the very earliest days, there was a way to report offensive content in the app. You could just tap any photo and say, hey, I don't like this. This is not good. And then we would actually have to review it. We were actually a really tiny team. We would have to like look at the photos, which was never fun, block accounts. So it was a little bit of hunting through and just like being proactive and reactive to the stuff that was happening. Dealing with problematic content was something that Facebook was able to help quite a bit with, actually. They've been running, you know, a huge platform for many more years and have had to learn and deal with those problems in much bigger numbers than we ever had. I remember that was actually one of the like big benefits that like we saw looking at Facebook, being like, oh wow, like they can actually really take this off our shoulders.
By offloading all of that community moderation to Facebook, Instagram detached themselves from one of the most important aspects of making sure that their platform was healthy. Facebook's priority is to have as few humans involved in that process as possible and to prioritize the issues that are getting the most public attention, which are the issues mostly facing Facebook, not the issues facing Instagram.
Content moderation happens in a combination of different ways. Some content moderation is what's called proactive, where when content gets posted to the platform, it gets flagged by an algorithm that says, hey, this looks suspicious. Either it's going to be removed from the platform or it'll be sent perhaps to some human to review it and say, is this actually a problem? But algorithms are not perfect, right? Algorithms often struggle to take into account social nuances that might determine whether something is problematic or not. Even if, you know, your AI for detecting harmful content is 99% accurate, if people are posting 1 million bad things a day, which is probably a vast underestimate, getting 1% of them wrong means 10,000 pieces of harmful content are coming through the platform every day, and people are going to be exposed to that.
I'm just packing my things to go back to placement. I stay at home on a weekend, and then I stay there for the rest of the week with like 2 staffs because I've been poorly, so I've got their support through the week. End of year 10, year 11, I started really wanting to hurt myself, and I would. But I think apart from that, then night before then, I didn't really want to, and I was just doing it because on Instagram it's glamorized and it's meant to be like, people make it look good. Like everything on Instagram's glamorized, whether it's the positive life and going shopping, having loads of money, or self-harm.
We found our phone and we got our password and stuff, and then when we looked into it, saw like the full extent to it, and messages, oh Abby, cut the cake, go on, referencing to our self-harm. It was upsetting, especially as well because they're vulnerable and they've been through stuff like that, and having to see what the effect it has on them as well, because it's not just Abby who has that, it's quite a lot of other people.
I was quite shocked. Naively, I was just thinking that Abby was quite innocently on things.
Later on, I could see like she was just always on her phone, and when she had her phone, she seemed to be more heightened. So that's when we came to realise, oh, it's her phone that's doing it.
You might have a low day, a single low day, and you might go and search for something on Instagram that you might not otherwise search for. Suddenly the algorithm has a little seed, it can start to grow. And because that topic is so intense, you know, as they show you more of it, you engage with it more. A little tiny glimmer and Instagram will pull you in that direction.
Machine learning models predict stuff. And in particular, they predict behavior. Like, think about the risk of using prediction to rank things in terms of a physical public square. The whole square is controlled by one company. There are thousands of possible routes you can take through that square. And when you come into the square, the first thing that happens is you're handed a particular leaflet. And then how you react to that leaflet determines which leaflet you're handed next. Once you start down a particular route through that square, the leaflets that you see are going to be more and more related to each other, and that might be a good thing. It might be that you get shown a cat leaflet and you really like that cat leaflet, so then you get shown more cat leaflets. But it might also be a dangerous thing that again you find intriguing, and then you're shown more of the same leaflet, and that's the route you then take through the square. What that means is that you have to have the determination to give the ranking model the same signals consistently over time that you are not in fact interested in that thing that you're interested before, and it'll test to see if you're still not interested in them. And if you say, actually, I am interested, then it'll start showing that to you again. Fundamentally, we're habitual beings, so it takes real will and resolve to break the self-reinforcing dynamic of using prediction to rank things. It's not impossible, but it asks a real test of human psychology.
You got everything?
Yeah.
It's hard to manage. It's a big problem. Abby can get very distressed. You know, she's been in hospital for 3 months, and it is very, very hard. I think there must be a way that Instagram can monitor things that are happening on there. They must know and possibly turn a blind eye.
Have you got all your things? Yeah?
Because it's happening every day. It's happening every day to everyday kids. And, you know, we are very lucky Abby is still here.
Your personal life gives a hug.
I'll see you
Through the week, darling.
I just thought of everything that she's been through, you know. A lot of the people on there, Abby doesn't even know. She's never met them. Yeah, I mean, she is. She's a strong girl and she will get there.
One of the hardest things when it comes to moderating Instagram is the visual nature of the product. The company simply hasn't figured out well how to understand the dark corners of Instagram that are harder to look for if you don't know what you're looking for. The hashtag communities that exist. If you don't know the right hashtag, you might never find them. So it's very easy for somebody to be doing something that is harmful and not coming to the attention of anyone in Menlo Park, California.
The people that were building a lot of the social technologies were, I don't want to say similar to me, but they were probably more similar to me than different. And what I mean by that is that we were, one, interested in technology. Two, we were pretty literate and educated. And I thought that by bringing this technology to the world, a lot of things would just sort of sort themselves out. I'm sure that there was some vague awareness perhaps about that risk in the early days of social media. In some ways, I don't want to say we were like blinded by ambition, but blinded by the desire to just kind of get this stuff out there and then we'd sort it out. Part of this was a selection bias. We were seeing people having a great time and using these things for good. And I think that, at least for me, propelled me to continue to believe that bringing more access to more people was a net good, as opposed to just saying, okay, you know what, humans aren't ready for this, let's give it up.
What was really interesting about the way Instagram solved its problems is they focused on the biggest users first. People like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande, they had such big follower counts that they also got a bigger dose of the issues. Taylor Swift was embroiled in a controversy and people were posting a lot of snakes on her page. She hated it. She didn't want to have a platform that was just full of harassment every time she logged on. And so that year, Instagram decided to allow muting of any words or emoji that you don't want to see. Hiding the words in your comments that make you sad, blocking certain people from following you, making sure that you can't see likes on others' posts. Well, hiding it doesn't make it go away. You are still in this world where everyone is being compared to everyone else. And that is, by its very nature, anxiety-inducing.
What happens for some adults, for some kids, is they self-soothe by scrolling on Instagram. The only problem is, if your self-soothing technique, sitting and scrolling, is exposing you to more of the content that is making you sick, that's not a good coping mechanism.
Having an eating disorder, it's really easy for you to fall into it's kind of like a trigger hole. Once I see one thing that's triggering, it's kind of easy to then go and find things that are also triggering just because that part of your brain likes it. I get food pictures pop up and they've got calorie counts on each side and it will say like which one is more healthy or how you can swap out different foods so that your calorie count is lower. Being in a trigger hole can have like serious effects on what happens next in your life. Like I might see something and then go not eat dinner.
In a sense, there is a feedback loop. The algorithm shows you some things that it thinks you're likely to interact with. You may interact with those things and then it'll try to show you more of those things as you interact with it more. That feedback loop is reasonably well understood. I think the aspect of it that's a little harder to understand is they will actually change your own behavior over time by showing you certain things.
If I'm scrolling 13 hours a day, it kind of no wonder that it had a negative effect on my mental health. All images would be quite highly edited. I was like comparing myself to this false person that I was looking at and not really realizing that that's what I was doing. I always used to use filters on Instagram and I didn't realize how damaging they were. But I always used to put like my pictures in Facetune and like make my waist smaller than what it was.
The underlying goal has always been the same. How do I look best? And maybe we need fewer, contrast filters and saturation filters and all this stuff. And take away my freckles or take away my like wrinkles or something.
And how do you guarantee like a selfie to look good? That was a problem we had to try and solve. It's making sure that, when you took a photo, your skin looked good. So all the blemishes go away.
Obviously you have a daughter now. How do you feel about her using filters and things like that?
Oh, wow. So I have a 2-year-old. In 16 years when she's 18. As a parent, I want to educate my daughter to say, you know what, it's okay. Beauty is up to you to decide. It's not something that is defined by someone else. You make people aware that there is a filter, that's good, because they know that there's some sense of like this image has been doctored. I think it's our responsibility to tell people that.
During COVID, I made friends with a neighbor, and she'd been through eating disorder recovery before. She'd been an inpatient, and she said, like, you're actually ill, like you're ill. You need to get help. Something just clicked, and I was like, yeah, I think actually you're right. And yeah, I then got help from there. Right, I'm filming now, and I'm not stopping it. I've stopped this video about 100 times. Hi everyone, welcome back to my IGTV. So this week is Eating Disorder Awareness Week, if you didn't know already. The content I post now is a lot more uplifting, a lot more positive, kind of still having that fashion element, but I also now talk about healing.
When you look back at your content from then, like, what do you think about that girl?
I feel like I have like quite a lot of compassion for that girl, because I feel like she was like striving to achieve this level of like perfection that just was never gonna happen. But she also like worked so hard to like get to where she was. I'm getting upset. Yeah. When I look back at that girl, I just think, I just wish that someone would have been like, hey, it's okay, like, there's something wrong here, but it's all gonna be okay, you know?
I don't know if it's an unusual thing about the nature of work as an influencer, but there are no built-in protections. You're competing with literally millions of people on a scale that most humans have never had to confront before. Imagine constructing your world such that you create things that happen so you can take photos of them in order for them to get likes, so that you can get the validation to stay at a certain rung on a ladder. That if you stop doing that and you'll lose all of your self-worth, and you'll start to question your value. It's a really tough place to be in.
It's in the very structure of Instagram that these problems have come about. And so if you don't change that, you really can't change the nature of how people feel about being compared to others all the time.
My name's Callum. I work for the Centre for Countering Digital Hate as its head of research. We've investigated a range of social media platforms. We look at how their algorithms work and what sort of content that they promote, and whether they're profiting from things that they shouldn't be. A big part of Instagram's business model is that it has an understanding of what users are interested in, and what it says to advertisers is, put your advertising on our platform and we'll make sure it's shown to people who are most likely to engage with it. We set up an account to investigate what's been called bigorexia, and that's primarily men who become obsessed with becoming very big and muscular, obsessed with bodybuilding. What we found was that the algorithm would push bodybuilding content very, very hard to accounts that began to follow that content, to the extent that the Explore page on Instagram, 80% of the posts on there recommended to you would feature pretty extreme bodybuilding physiques. This has been likened to a form of body dysmorphia, and increasingly is thought to be harmful. And so the signs that the algorithm is pushing men towards that content and is encouraging them to see this pretty extraordinary body shape as ordinary, normal, and easily attainable. It was getting adverts for health supplements, for diet plans, for workout plans. So none of which is harmful in itself, but it is another example of how Instagram turns that time spent on the platform looking at this content into money through advertising.
If you're Instagram strategically, The ordinary user doesn't matter as much as the advertiser, unless you're thinking about them en masse. They need more ordinary users spending time on Instagram to be the ones buying the products.
I mean, the most effective ads and brand marketing is content that makes you feel something, that causes a reaction or a response. Instagram was one of the first platforms where I think that creator class really realized that the best ads are ads that don't feel like ads at all.
So my natural body type is very slim, and when I was younger, skinny girls were in. But when you came to Instagram now, the curvy girl was cool. And then with the whole advertising of, oh, Brazilian butt lift, BBL, and you can do this and you can do that. And if you don't know what a BBL is, they transfer fat from other areas of your body and they pull it into your bum and then they sculpt you. I was thinking, okay, curvy girls are in. If I'm curvier, I'm gonna get more followers. If I get more followers, I'm gonna get more money. If I get more money, that's a better future for my children.
I'm Sinead Leroy and I'm out here in Istanbul and I've just had my BBL surgery, hence why I'm a little bit stiff.
I got my BBL surgery done by a company. They expected from me that I post stories and post my results of before and after. In return for that, they would give me a reduced rate. It turned out to be something I wouldn't do again.
Hi, how are you, babe?
How are you?
Right, thanks. Get some water if you like.
Definitely. After my surgery and I came back to England, my body was perfect. And it was only when I was having my massages done, one of the masseuses was like, I think you still have fluid left inside you.
You see like hair? It looks like I've got like a small baby.
And the thing is, like, people knew me on Instagram because I've always been into my health and fitness. I've always had a six-pack. And I did go onto my Instagram, put up a whole post. I had a negative experience. So I owe it to my audience to be honest and say, this is what happened to me. You need to not fall into the hype like I did. You need to actually think about the whole process. It's one of the most dangerous procedures. And obviously, like, I have 2 children. It's very irresponsible of me, especially being a mum. But if I'm honest, I feel like I probably still would have done it. It's the advertising. I'm like, oh, but he looks good and her body looks good. And this is why, like, for me, I had to go through my Instagram and filter who I follow.
When it comes to the algorithm, that's where safety has to be paramount because that's where the platform is taking an active role in presenting content to users and it can cause harm to them.
Yes, influencers have a responsibility to their public, to their audience, especially if they're younger people. However, the government and the people that actually run Instagram, that's where the responsibility really falls. If something is that detrimental, you have the algorithms, you have the numbers, you're seeing everything from the top. They have to control it. They have to figure it out.
It's not the case that social media companies like Instagram are just not thinking about all the ways in which their content can harm people. They are. They write rules which are publicly available. And on the basis of those rules, content is completely removed by people from the site. But the other way they're thinking about reducing content that's harmful to people is by training machine learning models to predict what kinds of content meets certain definitions and then demote that on people's Instagram feeds. But the crucial question about that, and this is a question for society, is who should get to decide what are the concepts that we should train machine learning models to demote content on the basis of? Should that be the companies themselves? Should it be legislators or regulators? And how should we know what those concepts are? Because right now we don't know all that much about them.
What's going on, Abby? So have a think of 10 different things that are important and special about you that nobody would know about unless you told them.
I'm living at home now, so I've moved from my placement. I didn't have my phone from my first placement. I'd say about 14, 15 months I didn't have my phone for. They knew what was going on with social media, stuff like that. So like, no, we're taking your phone off you, because it isn't making you any better, it's just making you worse. Not having access to them groups as such was very good. Like, still now, I'm very grateful that I didn't have my phone. I'm not in them groups anymore. If I get added, I'll leave.
And then look at the face. Abby's phone and that, it is a bit of a concern because you don't know who's on there, who she's messaging. So it makes you quite worried what she's doing and by herself and on her phone.
As soon as you open Instagram, it's the feed page you see and not the group chat. I went on Instagram like about 2 weeks ago, and there was someone posted like a few screen recordings of these videos. People committing suicide who'd videoed the suicides. I don't know how them videos were uploaded. I didn't really look into it because I was so traumatised. And one of them, there was this woman and she was hanging herself and she was crying and all this. It's getting out of hand. When I first went on the communities, it was like, yeah, people posting pictures of self-harm and that, but now it's like, I mean, that is bad in itself, but now it's the extremes and it's just getting spiralling out of control. And I think people can't control what people put on anymore because they didn't stop it in the first place.
Obviously, no social media will be the best solution, but you can't take somebody's phone off them forever, the social media off them forever. So I think certain guidelines need to be put in place to stop this harm towards people.
I don't think they really put a lot of safeguards in place, so all it would be is sensitive warning on this video. All you have to do is click yes. Do you know what I mean? It just shouldn't be up there. That video should not be on social media.
I think we're starting to have a reckoning as a society for the power that Instagram holds over young people and over really all of us. In the last few years, employees have realized that the power that this company holds is simply too large, too important to keep secret.
I worked at Facebook for approximately 2 years, starting in June of 2019. And it really struck me when I worked at Facebook that there were a number of systemic problems that I didn't believe Facebook could solve on its own. Facebook's research says that in the United States, 6% of teenagers who thought about suicidal ideation said that it was driven by Instagram, and 13% in the UK. Instagram makes body image issues worse in 1 in 3 teen girls. Documents describe an addict's narrative. No, I don't feel good when I use this. I can't stop. I want to stop. If I leave, I'll be ostracized. And when they go to their parents and talk about these problems, because their parents never lived through this experience, Facebook's own documents say kids are suffering alone At some point, I realized that the only way these problems were going to be solved was if we stepped out of the frame. Facebook is trying to solve these problems in private, and that's part of why I came forward. We have to solve these problems together.
Facebook and Instagram have a responsibility to better understand the impacts that they're having on the world. But in my mind, that's not enough. What really needs to be part of the solution is a much broader conversation with regulators, with the public, in terms of, can we actually envision a world where Facebook isn't just left alone to do whatever it wants to its platforms, but there's actually some way that we have some transparency into what they're doing. And I think people are starting to realize that actually there's a way that this could be done better.
I'm literally a completely different person. Every single thing is different about me now because I've been through so much therapy. My whole life has changed. I've decided more recently to not edit any of my content, so... Oh, this is cute. I just have it straight from my iPhone camera to Instagram, not being touched. I don't want to add to the problem that is probably never going to go away by showing people this false image of myself. I feel a lot happier and healthier, but like I literally always smile, which I never really did before.
I hope that we will be able to find ways to feel interconnected in a positive way that benefits society at large. And I think that there are ways that social media platforms can do that. But they do need to change.
Now I'm in college, I'm doing my level 3 health and social care, so I'm becoming a mental health nurse. I think people need to take responsibility for what they're posting and acknowledge how it can impact others. Instagram could try and monitor this a lot more closely and try and tackle this problem as soon as possible.
I don't know who is responsible. I do think it will take us a while to kind of look back and kind of figure that out.
Am I responsible? Of course I am. I was part of designing features and building features that are now used in the way they are. I can't completely disconnect from having worked on it.
I still love Instagram, and I really hope that it's able to sort of figure out how to navigate this space and get back to what it wanted to be. But I can't say that I'm holding my breath for that to happen.
The only way Facebook will change is if they're forced to change. Companies don't change until the cost of changing is less than the cost of staying the same. And so we need to stand up and demand better things. We need to demand the Instagram that we deserve, not the one that Facebook is giving us today.
Details of organisations offering information and support with self-harm and eating disorders are available at bbc.co.uk/actionline.